Welcome, loyal subjects of the Emperor, to another deep dive into the unforgiving universe of Warhammer 40,000. Today, we embark on a journey through the dark and shadowy tale of the Dark Angel, penned by C.Z. Dunn. This story is a prime example of the intricate web of secrecy, loyalty, and vengeance that defines the grimdark future of the 41st millennium. As we explore the first part of this narrative, we'll delve into the brutal interrogation of a traitor, the desperate fight for survival by the Relictors chapter, and the enigmatic arrival of a Dark Angel on a mission shrouded in mystery. Prepare yourselves for a story where nothing is as it seems, and trust is a commodity more valuable than any weapon. The opening chapter of The Dark Angel is a masterclass in building tension and establishing the oppressive atmosphere that is synonymous with the Warhammer 40K universe. From the very first scenes, we are thrust into the cold, merciless world of the Dark Angels, a chapter known for its secrecy and its relentless pursuit of the fallen. This part of the story introduces us to two parallel narratives, the brutal work of an interrogator chaplain and the perilous mission of a Relictor squad on the moon of Sasaba. Through these parallel narratives, C.Z. Dunn expertly weaves together themes of loyalty, secrecy, and the heavy burden of duty that weighs upon every Space Marine. The contrasting yet interconnected experiences of Asmodai and Captain Vidana offer us a glimpse into the harsh realities faced by those who serve the Emperor, especially when their missions bring them into contact with the dark secrets of the Imperium. In the unforgiving galaxy of Warhammer 40K, there is no room for weakness, and every decision can mean the difference between victory and annihilation. This first part of The Dark Angel sets the stage for a tale that will test the limits of loyalty, the strength of bonds forged in battle, and the resolve of those who walk the fine line between duty and destruction. Part 1. The narrative opens in the heart of a Dark Angel's fortress monastery, deep within the bowels of a torture chamber. The air is thick with the scent of blood and fear, and the walls resonate with the muffled sounds of pain. Here, we meet Asmodai, one of the most feared interrogator chaplains of the Dark Angels. Asmodai's introduction is nothing short of chilling. He is a figure of both reverence and terror, a master of pain whose methods are as ancient as the chapter itself. The prisoner, a traitor Space Marine, hangs suspended by chains, his body a canvas of agony. The detailed description of his wounds, deep incisions that lattice his flesh in precise patterns, immediately immerses us in the grim reality of Asmodai's work. These wounds are not random, they are the result of centuries of perfected techniques, passed down through the generations by the Dark Angels. The prisoner's once proud black armor has been stripped away, leaving him exposed, both physically and psychologically, to the relentless torment of his captor. When the prisoner asks, "What do you want from me, Dark Angel?" his voice is laced with desperation and defiance. Asmodai's response is devoid of emotion, a stark reminder of the cold, calculated nature of the Dark Angels. "All in good time, traitor," he says, before continuing his work, his voice and actions imbued with the confidence of someone who knows that, eventually, every secret will be revealed. This interaction sets the tone for the entire story, one of relentless pursuit, where the Dark Angels will stop at nothing to uncover the truth. From the darkened torture chamber, the story transitions to the dense forests of Sasaba, the third moon of Karalis V. The mood shifts from one of suffocating confinement to one of tense anticipation as we follow Captain Vidana and his squad of Relictor Space Marines. The forest is a place of danger, filled with the whispers of unseen enemies and the looming threat of ambush. The Relictors, a chapter with a storied and often troubled history, are on high alert, their senses finely tuned to the dangers that lurk in the shadows. Captain Vidana is introduced as a seasoned warrior, his gray armor a patchwork of salvaged pieces from fallen brothers, a testament to the grim reality of Space Marine life, where every piece of equipment has a history, and every battle leaves its mark. His bolter, a master-crafted weapon dating back to the time of the Scouring, symbolizes the weight of history and the legacy of the Imperium's eternal war against traitors and Xenos alike. Vidana is not just a leader, he is a living embodiment of the Relictor's resilience and determination to carry on, no matter the odds. As the Relictors advance through the forest, the tension mounts. The narrative paints a vivid picture of the environment, a place where even the trees seem to conspire against the Space Marines, offering cover to enemies and obscuring their view. The mention of a small native quadruped, spotted by Vidana from kilometers away, serves as a reminder of the Space Marines' enhanced senses and the heightened state of awareness that defines their existence. The calm is shattered by the sudden appearance of hundreds of rebels, emerging from the trees in a well-coordinated ambush. The Relictors respond with practiced precision, their bolters unleashing a storm of fire that cuts down the first wave of attackers. However, the rebels are relentless, and their numbers quickly threaten to overwhelm the small squad of Space Marines. The description of the rebels dodging and weaving through the trees, their autocannons and heavy bolters driving the Relictors back, creates a scene of chaotic intensity where every second counts, and every decision could be their last. The situation grows increasingly dire as Brother Asia takes a direct hit, his ancient armor barely holding together. Despite his injuries, Asia remains stoic, his only concern being the potential wrath of the chapter's master of the Forge. This moment encapsulates the unyielding resolve of the Space Marines, who face death and dismemberment without flinching, their minds focused solely on the mission at hand. As the Relictors fight desperately to hold their ground, they are suddenly reinforced by an unexpected ally, a lone Dark Angel, accompanied by two servitors. The arrival of this mysterious figure marks a turning point in the battle. The Dark Angel, clad in black power armor and draped in a bone-white robe, is an imposing presence, his arrival immediately shifting the balance of power. The rebels, who moments ago seemed on the verge of victory, are now the ones retreating, their morale shattered by the sudden and devastating counterattack. The Dark Angel's intervention is as welcome as it is unsettling. His identity and purpose are shrouded in mystery, and his actions raise more questions than answers. Captain Vidana, ever the cautious leader, immediately recognizes the potential danger of trusting this unknown warrior. The ensuing dialogue between Vidana and the Dark Angel is filled with tension, as both sides probe for information while revealing as little as possible. The Dark Angel's cryptic statements, his refusal to fully explain his mission, and his calm assurance that the Relictors will assist him, all contribute to the atmosphere of unease. As the dust of battle settles, the Relictors are left with a choice: trust this enigmatic figure and potentially gain an ally in their mission, or reject his help and risk further losses. Vidana's decision to cautiously accept the Dark Angel's offer reflects the harsh realities of warfare in the 41st millennium, where alliances are often forged out of necessity rather than trust. The interactions between the characters in this chapter are a study in contrasts and complexities. Asmodee's cold, methodical approach to interrogation stands in stark contrast to the more direct, yet equally intense, interactions between the Relictors and the Dark Angel. Asmodee's treatment of the prisoner is devoid of any sense of mercy or compassion. His only goal is to extract the truth, regardless of the cost to the traitor. This single-minded pursuit of the chapter's secretive agenda is a hallmark of the Dark Angels, who are willing to go to any lengths to achieve their objectives. Captain Vidana, on the other hand, is portrayed as a leader who balances caution with decisiveness. His interactions with his squad demonstrate the close bonds that form between Space Marines, forged in the fires of countless battles. Vidana's concern for his brothers, particularly when Brother Asia is injured, highlights the deep sense of responsibility he feels for his squad. At the same time, his willingness to engage with the Dark Angel, despite the inherent risks, shows his pragmatic approach to leadership. He understands that in the brutal world of Warhammer 40K, survival often depends on making difficult decisions. The Dark Angel's interactions with the Relictors are shrouded in ambiguity. He is a figure of both authority and mystery, his motives unclear and his words carefully chosen. The tension in his conversations with Vidana is palpable, as both warriors test each other's resolve while concealing their true intentions. The Dark Angel's refusal to fully reveal his mission, coupled with his demand for the Relictors' assistance, creates an uneasy alliance that could either lead to a successful mission or end in betrayal. This dynamic is further complicated by the inherent distrust between the two chapters. The Dark Angels are notorious for their secretive nature, and the Relictors, themselves no strangers to suspicion, are well aware of the dangers of placing their trust in a chapter known for its hidden agendas. This interplay of suspicion, loyalty, and necessity adds a layer of complexity to the story, making every interaction between the characters a potential turning point. The themes explored in this first part of The Dark Angel are deeply rooted in the lore and philosophy of Warhammer 40K. Secrecy, loyalty, and the heavy burden of duty are central to the narrative, reflecting the core values of the Dark Angels and the Imperium as a whole. The Dark Angels' relentless pursuit of the Fallen, a group of traitors who betrayed the Imperium during the Horus Heresy, is a key element of the chapter's identity, and it drives much of their actions in the story. The theme of secrecy is embodied in Asmodee's interrogation of the prisoner. The Dark Angels' need to uncover the truth at any cost is a reflection of their chapter's deep-seated guilt and the lengths they will go to protect their secrets. This secrecy, however, comes at a cost. It isolates them from other chapters and creates an aura of mistrust that surrounds their every action. Loyalty, both to one's chapter and to the Imperium, is another key theme. The Relictors, despite their troubled history and the suspicion that often follows them, are unwavering in their loyalty to each other and to their mission. Their willingness to fight against overwhelming odds, and their decision to form an alliance with the Dark Angel, despite the risks, demonstrate the importance of loyalty in a universe where betrayal is a constant threat. The burden of duty is perhaps the most pervasive theme in the story. Every character, from Asmodee to Captain Vidana, is driven by a sense of duty that defines their actions and their identities. For Asmodee, this duty involves the brutal work of interrogation, ensuring that no secret remains hidden. For Vidana, it is the responsibility of leading his squad to victory, even when the odds are stacked against them. This sense of duty, however, is not without its challenges. Each character must navigate the fine line between fulfilling their duty and succumbing to the darker impulses that such a burden can bring. The physical and psychological toll of war is also a prominent theme in this part of the story. The detailed descriptions of the battlefield, the wounds suffered by the Space Marines, and the relentless nature of the combat all serve to underscore the harsh realities of life in the 41st millennium. War is not just a backdrop to the story, it is the very fabric of the narrative, shaping the characters and driving their actions. The second part of The Dark Angel picks up immediately where the first left off, with Belial locked in a deadly struggle against the Orcish warlord Gazd Kolthraka. The fight is brutal and unrelenting, showcasing the sheer physical might of the Orc warlord and the tenacity of Belial as he tries to bring down this monstrous foe. The description of the battle is visceral, with every strike and counterstrike described in vivid detail, immersing the reader in the chaotic and violent reality of close-quarters combat. Belial's initial attempts to damage Gazd with his bolter are met with frustration as the Orc's thick armor shrugs off the attacks. This moment highlights the physical resilience of the Orc warlord, who seems almost impervious to harm. Despite this, Belial remains undeterred, his determination fueled by the need to protect his brothers and fulfill his duty to the chapter. The plasma pistol, a weapon of immense power, finally gives Belial a momentary advantage, burning through Gazd armor and wounding the beast. Yet, even this mighty weapon is not enough to bring the warlord down, as Gazd laughter echoes through the battlefield, a chilling reminder of the Orc's savage nature and indomitable will. The battle intensifies as Belial is forced to retreat into the ruins of a warehouse, using the environment to his advantage in a desperate bid to outmaneuver the Orc warlord. The description of Belial navigating the treacherous terrain, leaping over debris, and using the darkness to his advantage creates a tense and claustrophobic atmosphere. Gazd relentless pursuit is portrayed with an almost predatory quality as the Orc bulldozes through the rubble, his every step shaking the ground. In a moment of tactical brilliance, Belial calls for an orbital strike, using his homing beacon to mark the warehouse for destruction. This decision showcases Belial's strategic mind and his willingness to use any means necessary to achieve victory, even if it means bringing down the entire building on top of his enemy. The subsequent bombardment is described in stunning detail, with the Thunderhawk gunship unleashing a devastating barrage that reduces the warehouse to rubble. The scene is both awe-inspiring and terrifying, as the sheer destructive power of the Imperium's weapons is unleashed. However, the sense of victory is short-lived. As the dust settles, Belial's overconfidence is revealed to be a grave mistake. Ghazghkull, though wounded and battered, emerges from the wreckage, his indomitable will driving him forward. This moment serves as a harsh reminder of the dangers of underestimating one's enemies in the Warhammer 40K universe. Belial's brief moment of triumph turns to despair as he realizes that the Orc warlord is still alive, and the battle is far from over. The narrative then shifts to a more introspective tone as Belial reflects on the situation. We are given a glimpse into the mind of a seasoned warrior who, despite his strength and experience, is not immune to doubt and regret. Belial's thoughts reveal the heavy burden of leadership and the toll it takes on those who must make life and death decisions for their brothers. His inner monologue is filled with self-recrimination as he acknowledges the mistakes he has made and the lives lost as a result. The story then transitions to a pivotal scene within the halls of the Dark Angel's Fortress Monastery. Belial, along with Chaplain Asmodai, seeks an audience with Supreme Grand Master Azrael to discuss the ongoing campaign on Pesina 4. The tension in this scene is palpable as the three leaders engage in a heated debate over the best course of action. Belial argues for the use of exterminatus, a measure of last resort that would see the planet and all its inhabitants destroyed to prevent the orcs from gaining a foothold in the system. Asmodai, ever the hardliner, supports this course of action, citing the need to protect the chapter's secrets and prevent the Fallen from being discovered by outsiders. Azrael, however, is more cautious. His role as Supreme Grandmaster requires him to weigh the moral and strategic implications of such a drastic measure. The dialogue in this scene is rich with the themes of duty, sacrifice, and the ethical dilemmas faced by those in positions of power. Azrael's reluctance to authorize exterminatus reflects his deep sense of responsibility to both the Imperium and the people of Pesina 4. He understands the gravity of such a decision and the far-reaching consequences it would have, not just for the chapter, but for the entire sector. This scene also highlights the complex relationships between the characters. Belial's frustration with the situation is evident as he struggles to balance his desire for swift retribution against the orcs with the broader concerns of the chapter. Asmodai's unwavering focus on the Fallen adds another layer of tension, as his zealotry often puts him at odds with his more measured brothers. Azrael, caught between the two, must navigate these conflicting perspectives while maintaining the integrity and honor of the Dark Angels. As the debate continues, Belial is forced to confront his own motivations. His desire to hunt down Ghazghkull is not just about duty, it's also personal. The Orc warlord's actions have caused untold suffering, and Belial feels a deep-seated need to bring him to justice. However, Azrael's words force him to consider the bigger picture, the need to prioritize the chapter's long-term goals over immediate vengeance. This internal conflict is a key element of Belial's character development as he grapples with the responsibilities of leadership and the sacrifices it demands. The interactions between the characters in this part of the story are rich with tension and complexity. The battle between Belial and Ghazghkull is not just a physical confrontation, it's a clash of wills between two indomitable warriors. Ghazghkull's sheer physical power and resilience are matched by Belial's tactical acumen and determination, creating a dynamic and compelling conflict. The battle is also a test of Belial's leadership, as he must balance his personal desire for vengeance with his duty to protect his brothers and complete the mission. The scene between Belial, Azrael, and Asmodai adds another layer of complexity to the story. Each character represents a different aspect of the Dark Angel's ethos: Belial, the warrior; Asmodai, the zealot; and Azrael, the leader. Their interactions reveal the inherent tensions within the chapter, as each character's perspective is shaped by their role and responsibilities. Belial's frustration with the situation is palpable, as he is forced to reconcile his personal vendetta with the broader strategic goals of the chapter. Asmodai's uncompromising stance on the Fallen highlights the darker side of the Dark Angel's mission, where secrecy and ruthlessness often take precedence over more conventional moral considerations. Azrael, as Supreme Grandmaster, is tasked with the unenviable role of balancing these competing interests while ensuring the chapter's survival and the success of their mission. Belial's interactions with the newly inducted members of the Death Wing also provide insight into his character. His stern, almost harsh demeanor reflects the high standards he holds himself and others to. The newcomers, still untested and perhaps overly confident, are met with Belial's cold scrutiny. His treatment of them is a mix of mentorship and trial, as he seeks to mold them into warriors worthy of the Deathwing's legacy. This interaction underscores the weight of tradition and the burden of expectations placed on those who serve in the elite ranks of the Dark Angels. The dynamics between these characters are further complicated by the overarching theme of secrecy that pervades the Dark Angels chapter. Belial's own doubts and the shadow of the fallen loom large over every decision made by the chapter's leadership. This secrecy breeds mistrust, even among the highest-ranking members of the chapter, as each character must navigate a labyrinth of hidden agendas and unspoken truths. The tension between loyalty to the chapter and the need for transparency creates a constant undercurrent of unease, adding depth and intrigue to their interactions. Part 3 of The Dark Angel plunges us into the heart of the action, with a narrative that oscillates between moments of quiet tension and explosive violence. We begin with Adept Inclamata Chana, a character who, despite her lower rank, plays a crucial role in the unfolding drama aboard the warship Revenge. Chana's situation is dire, trapped in a sensorium chamber surrounded by the corpses of her fellow crew members, with only the ancient and unreliable subvox system at her disposal. The detailed descriptions of her surroundings, the blood-splattered walls, the sparking machinery, and the eerie silence create a vivid picture of the chaos and despair that has overtaken the ship. Chana's struggle is emblematic of the larger conflict within the Warhammer 40K universe, where individuals often find themselves isolated and overwhelmed by the vast and incomprehensible forces at play. Her determination to continue working, despite the futility of her efforts, reflects the resilience and tenacity that are hallmarks of humanity in this dark future. The narrative effectively uses Chana's perspective to highlight the scale of the conflict, showing how even the smallest cog in the Imperial war machine can make a difference, however marginal it might seem. The story quickly shifts focus to Azrael, the Supreme Grandmaster of the Dark Angels, who finds himself locked in a deadly duel with Karn the Betrayer, one of the most feared and brutal warriors in the galaxy. This confrontation is not just a physical battle, but a clash of ideologies and wills. Karn, a servant of the bloodthirsty chaos god Khorne, embodies the relentless fury and chaos that threaten to engulf the universe. Azrael, on the other hand, represents the disciplined, unwavering resolve of the Imperium of Man. The description of their battle is visceral and intense, with each strike of their weapons echoing the larger conflict between order and chaos. The battle between Azrael and Karn is a masterclass in Warhammer 40K storytelling, showcasing the physicality and brutality of the universe while also exploring the psychological depth of its characters. Karn's relentless aggression, fueled by his devotion to Khorne, contrasts sharply with Azrael's measured and tactical approach to combat. The narrative expertly captures the tension and stakes of the battle, as Azrael must use every ounce of his skill and experience to survive against a foe who seems almost unstoppable. The environment itself, the dark, corrupted corridors of the Revenge, adds to the sense of foreboding, as the ship becomes a battleground not just for physical combat, but for the souls of those who tread its decks. As the battle rages on, the narrative introduces an intriguing twist with the introduction of the demon-possessed guardsman, Job. This encounter adds a layer of psychological horror to the story, as Azrael must confront not only a physical enemy but also the insidious nature of chaos. The demon's taunts and attempts to manipulate Azrael reveal the psychological warfare that is a hallmark of chaos, as it seeks to undermine the resolve of even the most stalwart defenders of the Imperium. Azrael's ability to see through the demon's deceptions and maintain his focus on the mission at hand is a testament to his leadership and strength of character. The narrative then returns to Chana, whose plight becomes increasingly desperate as she realizes the full extent of the damage to the ship. Her efforts to restore communication, though ultimately futile, serve to highlight her resourcefulness and determination. The description of her surroundings, filled with the bodies of her fallen comrades, underscores the horror of the situation and the isolation that she feels. Yet, Even in the face of overwhelming odds, Chana continues to work, driven by a sense of duty and the hope that her actions might make a difference. This aspect of the story serves as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by those who serve the Imperium, even in the most dire circumstances. The climax of this part of the story comes as Azrael confronts the demon that has been orchestrating the events aboard the Revenge. The revelation that the demon has been manipulating Azrael's encounters, using Karn as a pawn, adds a layer of complexity to the narrative. This encounter is as much a battle of wits as it is a physical confrontation, with Azrael using his knowledge of the demon's true name to gain the upper hand. This moment is a powerful demonstration of the theme that knowledge is power, a recurring motif in the Warhammer 40K universe. Azrael's victory over the demon is hard-won, but it also comes with the realization that the war is far from over and greater challenges lie ahead. The character interactions in this part of the story are rich with tension and subtext, reflecting the complex dynamics at play in the Warhammer 40K universe. The battle between Azrael and Karn is not just a physical confrontation, but a representation of the larger conflict between the forces of order and chaos. Azrael's calm and strategic approach to combat contrasts with Karn's berserk fury, highlighting the different philosophies that drive these two warriors. Azrael's ability to anticipate and counter Karn's attacks is a testament to his experience and tactical acumen, even as he faces one of the most dangerous foes in the galaxy. Chana's interactions, though primarily with her environment and the memories of her fallen comrades, offer a glimpse into the human side of the Warhammer 40K universe. Her determination to survive and her efforts to maintain a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos reflect the indomitable spirit of humanity in this dark future. The narrative effectively uses Chana's perspective to explore the emotional toll of the conflict, as she grapples with the loss of her fellow crew members and the hopelessness of her situation. Her story serves as a reminder that the struggle for survival in the Warhammer 40K universe extends beyond the battlefield, affecting every aspect of life in this dystopian future. The interaction between Azrael and the demon-possessed Job is particularly noteworthy, as it showcases the psychological warfare that is a hallmark of chaos. The demon's attempts to sow doubt and confusion in Azrael's mind reveal the insidious nature of chaos, which seeks to corrupt and undermine the resolve of even the most steadfast warriors. However, Azrael's ability to see through the demon's deceptions and maintain his focus on the mission at hand demonstrates his strength of character and leadership. This interaction also highlights the theme of deception and mistrust, as Azrael must constantly be on guard against the manipulations of his enemies. Part 4 of The Dark Angel begins with a powerful and revealing confrontation between Azrael, the Supreme Grandmaster of the Dark Angels, and a demon that has been manipulating events aboard the warship Revenge. This encounter is not just a battle of wills, but a battle of intellect, where Azrael demonstrates his deep understanding of the lore and secrets of his chapter. The dialogue between Azrael and the demon is rich with subtext, as Azrael methodically dismantles the demon's confidence by revealing that he possesses knowledge of its true name, a weapon that gives him the power to banish the creature back to the warp. This moment is pivotal as it showcases Azrael's cunning and the extent of his preparation. His ability to outmaneuver the demon, not through brute force but through knowledge, emphasizes a recurring theme in Warhammer 40K, the power of information and the danger of underestimating one's opponent. The demon's realization that Azrael has been one step ahead all along creates a palpable sense of dread, turning the tables on the creature that had previously seemed so confident in its control over the situation. As Azrael prepares to banish the demon, he demonstrates his unyielding focus on the mission at hand. His decision to leave the demon's destruction to another, more fitting agent, rather than taking personal satisfaction in its demise, speaks to his discipline and sense of duty. This act of deferral also introduces an intriguing element of foreshadowing, as the audience is left to wonder who or what this other might be, and how they will deal with the demon. The exchange ends on a chilling note, with the demon's pleas for mercy falling on deaf ears, highlighting the unforgiving nature of the Warhammer 40K universe. The narrative then shifts back to Chana, who finds herself in a desperate situation as traitor Astartes attempt to breach the sensorium where she has taken refuge. The description of the door melting under the intense heat of the plasma beam, combined with Chana's steely resolve to go down fighting, paints a vivid picture of her bravery in the face of overwhelming odds. Her fear is palpable, yet it is her determination to document her findings, knowing that her life may soon end, that underscores her commitment to the omniscia and the knowledge she serves. This act of recording her discoveries serves as a poignant reminder of the value placed on knowledge in the Warhammer 40K universe, even in the face of certain death. The sudden appearance of Azrael at the critical moment is both a relief and a surprise to Chana. Her disbelief at being rescued is tempered by the realization that the Dark Angels have their own priorities and that her survival was not guaranteed. Azrael's nonchalant response to her shooting him and his focus on the mission further emphasizes the stark realities of the world they inhabit. The brief interaction between Azrael and Chana showcases the dichotomy between the human element represented by Chana and the larger-than-life, almost mythic presence of the Space Marines. For Chana, this encounter is a brush with the divine, while for Azrael, it is merely another step in his ongoing mission to reclaim the ship and cleanse it of corruption. Meanwhile, the narrative returns to the confrontation between Karn the Betrayer and the demon. The demon's realization that it has been used as a pawn in a larger scheme is a testament to the layers of manipulation that exist within the chaos of the Warhammer 40K universe. Karn's dismissal of the demon's pleas and his decision to offer the demon's skull to Khorne in place of Azrael's shows his unwavering devotion to the blood god and his singular focus on collecting skulls for Khorne's throne. This moment not only highlights Karn's brutal nature but also the twisted honor that drives him, a desire to fulfill his promises to his god, no matter the cost. The narrative then takes a dark turn as we witness the cost of a message sent through the warp. The description of the astropathic choir being driven to madness and death by the transmission, and the horrific consequences that ripple out across the galaxy, underscore the dangerous and unpredictable nature of the warp. The message, intended for the Dark Angels, leaves a trail of destruction in its wake, affecting countless lives and even leading to the extermination of an entire planet's population due to the birth of mutated children. This sequence is a stark reminder of the costs associated with the Imperium's reliance on the warp for communication and the ever-present threat of chaos corruption. The final recipient of the message, Yelena Forno, an astropath serving on the Pride of Caliban, becomes the focal point of this segment. Her encounter with the chapter master, Zadokil, reveals the gravity of the message and the lengths to which the Dark Angels will go to protect their secrets. The revelation that the message has left physical marks on her body, coordinates etched into her flesh, adds a layer of horror and inevitability to her fate. Zadokil's cold and calculated decision to kill Yelena after extracting the necessary information is a chilling demonstration of the ruthlessness that defines the Dark Angels and their pursuit of their hidden agendas. The interactions between characters in this part of the narrative are fraught with tension and laden with meaning. Azrael's confrontation with the demon is a masterclass in psychological warfare, where the true battle is not fought with weapons, but with words and knowledge. The demon's fear and desperation are palpable as Azrael reveals his trump card, the knowledge of the demon's true name. This exchange highlights the power dynamics at play, with Azrael firmly in control despite the demon's earlier attempts to manipulate the situation. Azrael's decision to leave the demon's fate to another also speaks volumes about his priorities and his ability to stay focused on the larger mission, even in the face of personal victory. Chana's interaction with Azrael provides a stark contrast to the earlier scene, showcasing the difference between the human and superhuman elements within the Warhammer 40K universe. Chana's fear and determination are relatable and human, while Azrael's calm and detached demeanor reflects the almost inhuman nature of the Space Marines. This interaction serves to humanize the story, reminding the audience of the ordinary people who are caught up in the vast and brutal conflicts of the galaxy. Chana's surprise at being rescued, despite Azrael's earlier statements, also underscores the unpredictable nature of the Space Marines' actions and their often inscrutable priorities. The scene between Karn and the demon further explores the themes of loyalty and betrayal within the context of chaos. Karn's unwavering devotion to Khorne, even in the face of the demon's pleas, illustrates the twisted sense of honor that drives him. The demon's realization that it has been betrayed by the very forces it serves is a powerful commentary on the nature of chaos, where loyalty is a commodity and betrayal is a constant threat. Karn's decision to offer the demon's skull to Khorne instead of Azrael's reinforces his single-mindedness and his commitment to fulfilling his promises, no matter the cost. The interactions between Zadokil and Yelena Forno, as well as between Zadokil and his fellow Dark Angels, delve into the darker aspects of the chapter's culture. Zadokil's cold and calculated approach to extracting the necessary information from Yelena, followed by his ruthless execution of her, highlights the lengths to which the Dark Angels will go to protect their secrets. This interaction is a chilling reminder of the moral ambiguity that defines the chapter, where the ends often justify the means, and where loyalty to the chapter's hidden agendas takes precedence over individual lives. The tension between Zadokil and his fellow Dark Angels also reflects the internal conflicts and differing perspectives within the chapter, adding depth to their characters and their motivations. The fifth part of The Dark Angel opens with a tense interrogation between Company Master Zadokil and the fallen angel, Aetius. This exchange sets the tone for the rest of the chapter, as Aetius reveals the true nature of the trap laid by the Crimson Slaughter. The narrative's tension escalates with every word, as Aetius describes the merciless slaughter committed by these Chaos Space Marines. Their leader, Kranon the Relentless, emerges as a particularly terrifying figure, driven by an insatiable thirst for bloodshed. The description of the massacre within the cathedral, corpses stacked high, a city desecrated, paints a vivid and horrifying picture of the devastation wrought by the Crimson Slaughter. Aetius's revelation that he was not allied with the Crimson Slaughter but was, in fact, their prisoner adds a layer of complexity to his character. This disclosure forces Zadokil to reconsider his initial assumptions about the fallen. The conversation touches on themes of honor and betrayal, with Zadokil accusing Aetius of being part of a treacherous alliance. However, Aetius's response highlights the fractured and shifting allegiances within the forces of chaos, where trust is a rare commodity, and alliances are often forged out of necessity rather than loyalty. As the dialogue continues, Aetius hints at the Crimson Slaughter's mysterious objectives, searching for something that might release them from a burden. This cryptic clue adds an element of intrigue to the narrative, as it suggests that there is a deeper, more insidious plot at play, one that goes beyond mere destruction. Zadokil, ever the pragmatist, weighs Aetius's words carefully, understanding that there is more at stake than just the immediate battle. The urgency of the situation is underscored when Captain Selena's voice crackles over the Vox, warning of an imminent attack as dozens of enemy vessels translate into the system. The ensuing battle is described in visceral detail, as drop pods rain from the sky, turning the once serene city into a battlefield. The sudden onslaught of cultists and the sight of the massive, crimson-armored Hellbrute sets the stage for a desperate fight for survival. The introduction of the Hellbrute, a towering, mutated engine of destruction, raises the stakes even higher, emphasizing the overwhelming power of chaos and the monumental challenge faced by the Dark Angels. The description of the Hellbrute's twisted, semi-organic form, with its tentacles and unblinking eyes, is a grotesque reminder of the corruption that chaos brings to everything it touches. Zadokil's struggle against the Hellbrute is a highlight of this chapter, showcasing the relentless determination and skill of the Dark Angels. Balthazar's efforts to engage the Hellbrute with his lightning claws and missile launcher demonstrate the unwavering resolve of the Deathwing, even in the face of such a formidable opponent. The dynamic between Zadokil and Balthazar is further explored during this battle, as they fight in tandem, their actions synchronized by years of experience and mutual trust. However, the narrative also hints at the underlying tension between them, particularly in how they handle Aetius, who remains a wild card in this chaotic confrontation. As the battle rages on, the narrative takes a sudden and tragic turn when Zadokil, faced with the impossibility of defeating the Hellbrute alone, makes the ultimate sacrifice. His decision to throw his Heavenfall blade into the Thunderhawk before allowing himself to be taken by the Hellbrute is a powerful moment, illustrating the deep sense of duty and honor that drives him. Zadokil's final words to Balthazar, "For the sake of the mission, make sure my sacrifice is not in vain," resonate with the themes of sacrifice and duty that permeate the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The description of Zadokil's death, as he is brutally murdered by the Hellbrute, is both harrowing and poignant, a stark reminder of the brutal realities of war in this universe. The chapter concludes with Balthazar and the remaining Deathwing extracting Aetius and returning to the Pride of Caliban. The atmosphere aboard the Thunderhawk is heavy with the weight of loss, as the Deathwing process the death of their company master. The silent, stoic reactions of the Space Marines, combined with the brutal way in which Aetius is subdued by Mindrian, speak volumes about the psychological toll of their mission. The narrative then shifts to Balthazar in the Medicae chamber, where he grapples with the aftermath of the battle and the loss of Zadokil. The tension between duty and emotion is palpable as Balthazar receives a message intercepted from the enemy fleet, a message that will undoubtedly set the stage for future confrontations. The interactions between the characters in this chapter are rich with subtext and tension. The exchange between Zadokil and Aetius is a masterclass in psychological warfare, with both characters probing each other for weaknesses. Aetius, despite being a prisoner, manages to retain a sense of agency and power, using his knowledge of the Crimson Slaughter to manipulate the conversation. His cryptic hints about the Crimson Slaughter's goals and his emphasis on the dangers they pose are designed to sow doubt in Zadokil's mind. Aetius's motivations remain ambiguous, adding to the sense of unease that permeates their interaction. Zadokil, on the other hand, is portrayed as a consummate leader, focused on the mission above all else. His decision to trust Aetius, even if only temporarily, reflects his pragmatism and his ability to adapt to changing circumstances. However, there is also a sense of internal conflict in Zadokil, particularly when he contemplates Aetius's potential usefulness versus the danger he represents. This internal struggle is brought to the fore during the battle, where Zadokil must balance the immediate threat of the Hellbrute with the long-term goal of capturing Aetius. The complexity of Zadokil's character is further highlighted in his final moments, where his sense of duty overrides his desire for self-preservation. Balthazar's role in this chapter is equally significant, as he serves as both a loyal subordinate and a foil to Zadokil. His interactions with Zadokil are marked by a mix of respect and concern, particularly in how he questions the decision to involve Aetius in the battle. Balthazar's protective instincts are evident, not just in his actions during the fight, but also in his reaction to Zadokil's death. The chapter captures the profound sense of loss and responsibility that weighs on Balthazar as he assumes command in the wake of Zadokil's sacrifice. His final moments in the Medicae chamber, where he receives the taunting message from the Crimson Slaughter, set the stage for his transformation into a more hardened and vengeful leader. The character of Aetius is perhaps the most enigmatic, as his true motivations remain shrouded in mystery. Throughout the chapter, he plays a dangerous game, using his knowledge and cunning to stay alive while subtly manipulating those around him. His actions during the battle, such as his calculated decision to retrieve the Chainsword and his offer to fight alongside the Dark Angels, suggest that he is more than just a prisoner. He is an opportunist, always looking for a way to turn the situation to his advantage. Aetius's relationship with Zadokil and Balthazar is complex, marked by a mix of animosity, grudging respect, and mutual distrust. This dynamic adds a layer of tension to the narrative, as the reader is left wondering whether Aetius will ultimately betray the Dark Angels or if he might have a deeper role to play in the unfolding events. The final part of The Dark Angel opens with Regan Antigone recounting the story of how he and his comrades held off a massive chaos assault, defending the city of Amatis. The narrative shifts seamlessly between the present, where Regan tells his tale to the Dark Angel Tigraine, and the past, where we experience the battle through Regan's memories. The tension is palpable as Regan struggles to maintain his composure while reliving the horrors of war. This dual narrative structure effectively builds suspense, as the reader is made to question the reliability of Regan's account and the truth behind his legendary status. As Regan narrates, we are plunged into the visceral experience of trench warfare, where the Chaos forces relentlessly assault the Imperial defenses. The descriptions are graphic and intense, capturing the brutal reality of combat in the 41st millennium. Regan's interactions with his comrades, Tarek and Murtok, reveal the camaraderie and grim humor that soldiers often cling to in the face of overwhelming odds. The narrative paints a vivid picture of the desperation and hopelessness that define the lives of these guardsmen, trapped in a war they have little hope of surviving. The turning point of the narrative occurs when Regan's weapon fails him, leaving him vulnerable to a Chaos mutant. The tension escalates as Regan faces certain death, only to be saved at the last moment by Murtagh. This moment of relief is short-lived, as the battle continues to rage around them. The arrival of Colonel Telemian and his subsequent order to reconnoiter the enemy positions sets the stage for the final act of the story. The decision to send Regan and his comrades on a suicide mission highlights the callousness and desperation of the Imperial command, willing to sacrifice lives on the slim chance of gaining a tactical advantage. The narrative then shifts to the ominous patrol through no man's land, where Regan, Tarek, and Murtagh navigate the treacherous terrain, filled with corpses and hidden dangers. The oppressive atmosphere is amplified by the thick mist and the constant threat of enemy patrols. The tension reaches its peak when the trio discovers the enemy's artillery preparations, signaling an imminent and devastating assault on Amatis. This revelation propels the narrative into its final, tragic phase, as the guardsmen realize the futility of their situation and the inevitable destruction that awaits them. As they return to the Imperial trenches, the narrative slows momentarily, allowing the reader to absorb the gravity of their discovery. The calm before the storm is shattered by the horrifying sight of Colonel Telemian's corpse, catapulted into the trench by the enemy. The subsequent barrage of corpses, a grotesque and dehumanizing tactic by the Chaos forces, underscores the utter ruthlessness and psychological warfare employed by the enemy. This scene is a powerful commentary on the dehumanization of war, where even the dead are used as weapons to break the morale of the living. In the chaos that follows, the remaining guardsmen, led by Regan, attempt to mount a defense against the overwhelming tide of Chaos forces. The narrative captures the sheer terror and despair of the situation as the guardsmen are pushed to their limits, fighting for their lives in the mud-filled trenches. The description of the hand-to-hand combat is brutal and unflinching, emphasizing the primal nature of war when technology fails and survival becomes a matter of brute strength and endurance. Amidst the carnage, the narrative introduces a glimmer of hope with the arrival of a mysterious hooded figure, Sergeant Tigraine of the Dark Angels. His sudden appearance and commanding presence temporarily restore order among the panicked guardsmen. The narrative shifts to a more mythic tone as Tigraine, embodying the archetype of the avenging angel, rallies the troops and leads them in a desperate last stand. His near-superhuman abilities in combat and his unwavering resolve inspire the guardsmen, even as the odds remain stacked against them. However, this hope is fleeting, as the overwhelming numbers of the enemy eventually wear down the Imperial defenses. The narrative poignantly captures the final moments of the battle, where Regan, Tarek, and Murtagh make their last stand. The description of their struggle, fighting back-to-back against the encroaching tide of chaos, is both heroic and tragic. The moment when Regan is captured by the cultists and begins to lose consciousness as they flay him alive is a harrowing depiction of the cruelty and senseless violence that defined the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The narrative then circles back to the present, where Regan concludes his story, only to face the cold judgment of Tigraine. The tension between the two characters, which has been building throughout the narrative, finally reaches its breaking point. Tigraine's interrogation of Regan reveals the cracks in his story, exposing the lies and half-truths that have been woven into the myth of Regan's heroism. The revelation that the battle was not won by the guardsmen alone, but with the decisive intervention of a lone Dark Angel, shatters the illusion of Regan's glory. The final confrontation between Regan and Tigraine is a masterclass in narrative tension. Tigraine's accusations strip away the last vestiges of Regan's dignity, leaving him exposed as a man who has lived a lie for 25 years. The narrative expertly captures the crushing weight of Regan's guilt and the inevitable retribution that Tigraine represents. The once revered hero is reduced to a broken man, begging for his life in a futile attempt to escape the consequences of his actions. The climax of the narrative is both inevitable and tragic. Tigraine, embodying the unforgiving justice of the Dark Angels, passes judgment on Regan, condemning him as a traitor to the Imperium. The final moments of Regan's life are described with a haunting clarity as he prays for forgiveness and a peaceful death. The narrative leaves the reader with a powerful image of Regan kneeling before the angel of death, his life forfeit for the sins he committed in the name of survival. The character dynamics in this final part are complex and deeply interwoven with the themes of the narrative. Regan Antigone is portrayed as a deeply flawed individual whose actions during the battle for Amatus were driven by fear, desperation, and a desire for self-preservation. His decision to lie about the events of the battle, to create a myth of heroism around himself, is both understandable and damning. The narrative explores the theme of honor versus survival and the moral compromises that individuals make in the face of certain death. Sergeant Tigraine, on the other hand, represents the unyielding and unforgiving nature of the Dark Angels. His character is a personification of the chapter's obsession with secrecy, loyalty, and retribution. Tigraine's relentless pursuit of the truth and his willingness to execute Regan despite his age and frailty highlight the Dark Angel's uncompromising stance on matters of honor and betrayal. The dynamic between Regan and Tigraine is a microcosm of the larger conflict between the ideals of the Imperium and the harsh realities of war. The themes of deception, guilt, and redemption are central to the narrative. Regan's entire life after the battle is built on a lie, a deception that has granted him fame and honor but at the cost of his integrity and peace of mind. The weight of this guilt is evident in his interactions with Tigraine, as he desperately tries to maintain the facade even when faced with the possibility of exposure. The narrative ultimately suggests that redemption is impossible for Regan, his sins are too great, and the justice of the Dark Angels is absolute. Another key theme is the nature of heroism. The narrative challenges the traditional notion of heroism by presenting a protagonist who is deeply flawed and whose actions are far from noble. Regan's heroism is revealed to be a fabrication, a story created to mask the fear and cowardice that defined his actions during the battle. This subversion of the hero archetype adds a layer of complexity to the narrative, forcing the reader to question the true nature of heroism in the brutal and unforgiving universe of Warhammer 40,000. The Dark Angel is a compelling exploration of the brutal realities of war, the complex nature of heroism, and the unforgiving demands of honor in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Through the journey of Regan Antigone, a man who is both a survivor and a symbol of the Imperium's propaganda machine, the story delves into the depths of human frailty and the moral compromises that war imposes on those who fight it. At its core, the story is a tragedy, depicting the rise and fall of a once revered hero. Regan's tale, built on a foundation of lies and half-truths, ultimately crumbles under the weight of his own guilt and the relentless pursuit of justice by the Dark Angels. His life, marked by fear-driven decisions and the desperate desire to survive, reflects the harsh reality that in the 41st millennium, there is little room for true heroism, only the grim choice between survival and sacrifice. The character of Sergeant Tigraine, representing the unforgiving nature of the Dark Angels, serves as the narrative's moral compass. His unwavering commitment to the chapter's code of honor and his ruthless pursuit of the truth stand in stark contrast to Regan's deception. Tigraine's final judgment on Regan underscores the theme that in the Imperium, there is no room for weakness, and even the smallest betrayal is met with the harshest consequences. The story challenges traditional notions of heroism by presenting a protagonist whose legend is a fabrication, crafted to hide the fear and cowardice that motivated his actions. This subversion of the hero archetype adds a layer of complexity, forcing the reader to confront the uncomfortable truth that in the universe of Warhammer 40,000, heroes are often made, not born, and sometimes they are nothing more than the product of convenient lies. In the end, the Dark Angel is a meditation on the cost of survival and the inevitable reckoning that comes when the truth is finally revealed. Regan Antigone's execution is not just a punishment for his lies, but a symbolic act that restores the moral order of the Dark Angels and reaffirms their relentless commitment to honor and secrecy. The story leaves us with a haunting reminder that in the grim darkness of the far future, there is no glory without sacrifice,